Greetings, gamers. I'm here again to talk to you, and I don't think you need an introduction by this point if you're watching this video. If you do, go look at some of the old videos, and I'll introduce myself there. But as a more compelling moment, I want to get to a variety of discussions related to RPG topics. As usual, that's what I have on my plate. Currently, I'm working on an adventure for an upcoming game system. I was asked to write to be an add-in to their Kickstarter, and they want it in advance, of course, which makes plenty of sense when you consider writers. I have had writer's block, so it has been quite a bit difficult to get this adventure written. But that's not the only thing that's prevented me getting written. I've been very slow on Hearts and Souls setting, and I think it may be the fact that I'm taking on the setting a little too narrowly, and I need to go back to a broad overview first and then come into the narrow. Other than that, I've recently been, invited to several games and had several games kind of shut down temporarily because I ended my Atomic Highway game and began a game of playtesting a setting that uses the Feat system, which is the system behind High Valor, called Eon. In short, it's EON, Empire of Night, and it is a dark space opera setting where the player characters are the resistance fighters who are fighting against the basic invasion of demons. And the demons are not, very mortal creatures that are just easy to shoot and be done with. While there are a variety of minions the demons make use of, the demons themselves are quite powerful, quite dangerous, and there's a reason why they are a threat and have taken over quite a bit of the galaxy in this setting. It is a rather dark setting for me. I have a friend who says all I write is dark settings, but I would like to point out that he has seen quite a few notes for things that are not out yet, and that when you consider the darkness is not necessarily depressing darkness. It is darkness that can be fought against. Player characters are meant to be a light that kindles in the darkness, that can change the shape of the future of these worlds that I game in. And that's generally the point, because I want there to be conflict. I want there to be a reason for player characters to go out and do crazy things and change the world, and a lot of that requires is a world that they're not happy with, and sometimes that not being happy with the world is an important setting premise that you've got to put forth in your beginning to have a game that makes sense, that gives the player something to do, whether it's a sandbox game or a plot-driven game or a player-driven game, depending on which mix of uses you have for game styles. Now, in addition to that, talking about games and game writing, I want to address a few things, because there are a lot of topics that I've been reading about lately, and it is in that interest that I want to cover those things briefly. Women in role-playing. Now, I've done a video on fake geek girls and how basically foolish I think the whole idea of them being fake through the work they have to go through. Now, there are situations where I can see somebody being paid to dress up, which was brought up in my comments, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who cosplay characters they enjoy, people who are not necessarily super nerds when it comes to a fandom. I'm a super nerd in a lot of ways, so don't mistake me. I don't expect everyone I meet who's interested in a comic book or comic book character or a superhero or a fiction of any kind to be as into it as I am, and that's okay. As long as they're into it and interested in it, that's what makes them awesome. Now, but the real thing is women. Real women. I'm not talking about supermodels who I assume are real women at some point in their lives, but I'm talking about the presentation of women in the world, in art, in several other things. I'm talking about representing real women, real body types, not what you get from magazines that have been airbrushed. And that's one of the reasons why I made the choices I did with High Valor art. One of the reasons I made the choices I did with Hearts and Souls art. My new cover art, which I should be uploading at some point, has 3 characters, 2 females and 1 male. One of the females is a feral. She's got animal features, a tail, a little bit of fur. That's what she is. She's carnivora. She's a member of the setting that has passed away, but she was a great hero in her time. The other one is Lariat, which is male, who's a elastic hero. And the final one is La Roca. Her name may be changed because that means different things depending on which Spanish speaker you're talking to, because like most languages, Spanish has a variety of dialects. And I want to present the character in such a way that she is interesting and her name is important to her, because it is, because she is Hispanic herself, actual Hispanic mix. She's Hispanic and Native American mix, which is, gives her certain traits. But she's super strong, she's super tough, and she is a tall, well-built woman, meaning she's not this tiny petite thing. She does not have enormous breast, and so I had to have the artist reduce her breast size because she's not, she is not one of those people that should have a physical appearance where her breasts are, dominating the picture. It's just not the character. And I had to have him change her hips a little bit as well because I think they were too thin in the original. And he did a great job. Let me explain. The artist did a fantastic job with both the original and the changed characters, and then colored it beautifully. But that's what I mean about representing real women. In High Valor, you will find that I don't have a lot of art. I couldn't afford a whole lot. The cover cost a significant amount, and the interior art cost a significant amount, depending on which artist we're talking about. And I wanted to represent characters who were realistic for the time period, and tiny supermodel airbrushed characters do not fit a dark age fantasy game. Some people like those in fantasy, and there is nothing wrong with presenting a tiny character, a tiny physical female character, as being badass. I have no problem with that at all. In fact, if you want to present a character that way, that's great. It's just not all characters should be that. In fact, not all characters should be dressed inappropriately in armor that doesn't cover them. I mean, let's give them armor that matters. There are dwarves in my setting that are female that are shown defending an area against Merc. They are both women, and they are both dressed appropriately in armor that covers their bodies. A female character in the background of a dragon meeting, not quite a fight yet, it hasn't started, is dressed in armor. Full chain shirt to the hips at least. And then the one female character who's dressed out of armor is in a skirt, a tunic, and a shirt, whatever you want to call a Dark Ages shirt, the equivalent thereof. And she's got a man on the ground with axes. So when I say real women, I'm not just talking about portraying women in non-sexual light, but talking about portraying women as competent, capable, and able, as well as not necessarily in a sexual-oriented armor. This is one of the reasons that I like Pathfinder. I'm not a fan of the Pathfinder rules, not at all. But much of the art, at least in the core book, is showing characters in a variety of different forms. And there's more there than just your standard white, petite, but with large breast female character. Now, there's nothing wrong with portraying a large-breasted person. There's nothing wrong with portraying a small person, a petite-bodied woman, but it's overdone, especially in gaming and comic books. I saw a recent comic book cover and was like, what the heck are these people thinking? No, just no. I mean, there's no sense in having this comic book character that scantily clad, especially if she's going to get punched or shot at. It's just not sensical. And look, I'm one of these people that I find women attractive of all body types. I find women attractive, and I could find a woman attractive in a parka. So, because to me, it's more about the person and less about the physiotype fitting a very narrow and somewhat inappropriate, limited version of humanity. I would suspect this goes for people who are attracted to men. For example, I have a friend who is attracted to men, and he basically says that he prefers men with a little bit of weight on them. He doesn't like the little narrow, super skinny guys that he often runs into who are also gay. And, that's his interest, and that's cool because it's showing that there's a place for multiple body types. I was told once I wasn't big enough to date a girl. I wasn't heavy enough. Yeah. Now, I am overweight. I am significantly round. I weigh about 249 right now, which, I'm sharing with you. That is down from 260, but it is up from where I've spent most of my life, which is around 225. After a brief stint of a job where I couldn't afford to eat much, and I had to walk to and from work over a couple miles, and went down to about 180. And that was the healthiest I ever was in my life, and I was about 19 years old. And once I had sufficient food, this came back. And that's the problem, is I had to starve myself and exercise to get down to 180, which is what they tell me I should weigh. And I don't eat much. I really don't. I eat toast for breakfast. I eat a sandwich for lunch, and I usually eat a decent sized supper. I don't snack beyond occasional midnight snack when I'm really hungry at night, and those are rare. The sweets I eat are very limited, but this is a human body type. This is what happens when you are not active enough, but that doesn't mean that I should not be represented. Somebody with my physical body type should not be represented in a game or be represented as a capable character, because I am certainly capable of a lot of things. Maybe not, fighting in plate mail, or chain mail all the time, but I'm capable of a few other things. And that is one of the things that I think we should do in games, is represent characters more equitably, both male and female. Not necessarily assume that super athletic, super skinny, super petite, super, overdone physical anything would be acceptable. We've got to have a reasonable balance of body types. And not just because that's an elf and that's a dwarf, and those are the only two body types we get besides the human. Short and broad and tiny as a waif. We need more for all types. Elves, dwarves, whatever. Now, that being said, I understand that like some fantastical creatures, like my own elves, tend to be slimmer. The dwarves tend to be heavier, but my dwarves aren't necessarily broader of body, they're just denser. Can't swim because their body mass is condensed. They weigh 300 or 400 pounds, but they may have certainly what would considered 180 or 200 pound build for their height, the equivalent thereof. So they are shorter, so that means that they don't necessarily weigh that much if they were massed like a human of their size. But that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today. I don't have much time left. I'm limited to 15-minute videos, so we're wrapping up here. I will probably do another one after this, and we'll talk about some other things I'd like to investigate. Anyway, good gaming. Enjoy your games. Enjoy your fiction. But demand a little more from them. Demand a little more equity in their presentation of humans, in their presentation of fantastic characters. We need a little more breadth and a little less breasts. Just to be fair. Take care.